Okay, welcome to part 3B, where I conclude and wanted to see with everything I talked about in parts 1, parts 2A and B, and then this part 3, I wanted to kind of wrap everything up that Trump being a narcissist and his actions because of that, whether they were intentional or accidental, as far as undermining the strength of the United States, because we all know he's in bed with Vladimir Putin at this point, and making it easier for Vladimir Putin to just attack, invade, occupy, whatever, the United States. So we ended part 3A talking about his meeting with President Zelensky last week and how his narcissism fit right in with everything that we saw. So when it came to the question of, let's look at if he's doing this inadvertently. If Trump's actions were driven primarily by narcissism and a lack of strategic foresight, it's possible that the weakening of the U.S. is an unintended consequence of his leadership style, and here's why. Narcissistic decision making. Narcissistic traits such as grandiosity, entitlement, and a need for admiration often lead to impulsive decisions that prioritize personal image over long-term strategy. For example, his obsession with acquiring Greenland or framing Canada as the 51st state could stem from a desire to leave a legacy without fully considering the geopolitical ramifications. Lack of empathy, a focus on self-interest over national interest, might result in policies that inadvertently weaken critical systems such as defense or healthcare simply because they don't align with his immediate goals or narrative. And then the third aspect of this is transactional worldview. And I know Hawk has talked about this quite a bit, so you might want to go check that out. Transactional worldview. His tendency to view relationships, whether with allies or adversaries, are as purely transactional could lead to short-sighted decisions that erode alliances and create vulnerabilities. If we redefine the he's being intentional perspective to focus solely on what's in it for Trump, the motivations could center around personal gain, validation, and legacy, and here's how that might look. Financial gain. Aligning with Putin and Russia could open doors for lucrative business opportunities, particularly in real estate, energy, or other ventures tied to his hospitality empire. Trump's history of prioritizing personal wealth suggests this could be a key motivator. Duh. Number 2, validation and admiration. Trump's apparent admiration for authoritarian leaders like Putin could stem from a desire for their approval. Being seen as an equal or an ally to such figures might feed his need for external validation and reinforce his self-image as a powerful, influential leader. Legacy building. Actions like attempting to annex Greenland or Canada could be driven by a desire to leave a lasting mark on history. Even if these moves are controversial or destabilizing, they align with a grandiose vision of reshaping the world in his image. No wonder MAGA swallowers think he's the second coming of Christ. Control and influence. Number 4. By weakening U.S. institutions and consolidating power, Trump could create an environment where his influence remains dominant even beyond his presidency. This could ensure his relevance and control over political and social narratives. And then 5, deflection and distraction. Intentional actions that align with Russian interest might also serve as a way to deflect attention from domestic scandals or failures, shifting the focus to grandiose international moves. This refined perspective suggests that Trump's intentionality if present, is likely rooted in self-serving goals rather than a coherent strategy to weaken the U.S. for Russia's benefit. So both things can be true here. I think Donald Trump is acting purely as every single narcissist does, and he is just in it for the attention, for the, ooh, someone likes me, and his admiration, like it said, for totalitarian dictators like Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin. And he aligns himself with them because they give him the props. They give him what he wants, what his ego so desperately needs as a narcissist. So his actions are intentional in that, but the unintended consequences of that, as I've laid out in 5 videos now, the weakening of the United States and our status on the world stage, we have seen that in just the last week with what he did to President Zelensky last week at the White House. And to me, I mean, we all know that's those of us who have dealt with narcissists throughout our life, we know how dangerous this is. But Donald Trump is so myopically focused in wanting from others that he is willing to do whatever he wants. So let's think about this in terms of Canada, Greenland, and Panama. Oh, if this is what Putin says we should do, then he's going to do it. And that's why he says stupid shit like that. Threatening Panama and taking over control of the Panama Canal, referring to Canada as the 51st state, and saying we need to buy Greenland. I outlined that in part 2 as to why Vladimir Putin wants that. Trump wants those just because that's what Vladimir Putin says. And Vladimir Putin loves me. He thinks I'm great. We're friends. But what he's really doing, as I hope I've laid out for you, because at least this is what my autistic brain is seeing just in the last week, is that his desire for external approval from whoever gives it to him is weakening us from the outside, could potentially, assuming we did gain control of Canada, Greenland, and Panama, would, yes, that would, strengthen our power as a nation geopolitically. But that's not why Donald Trump wants it. Donald Trump just wants those countries because that's what Vladimir Putin wants. And, you know. So the unintended consequences of this, and as I laid out too, if we do not do something and try and convict and remove these people from office legally for treason, if we cannot get that done in the next 2 to 4 years, based on ChatGPT, we are in some serious, serious trouble. And it may not matter beyond that 2 to 4 year window if we get somebody like Kamala Harris and Tim Walz into office, okay, and get the Pete Buttigieg's, the Gretchen Whitmers, the Gavin Newsoms, the J.D. Pritzkers. God, I love J.D. Pritzker. Yeah, I've been hearing him speak. If we do not do that until the end of Trump's term, and Donald Trump and his administration is allowed to keep doing what they are doing, we have 2 to 4 years approximately before we see the fallout from all of this. And I fear that the fallout will be because Vladimir Putin's a hell of a lot more intelligent than Donald Trump. Yeah. Vladimir Putin is using Trump as a puppet so that he can attack and or invade and occupy the United States. That's what Vladimir Putin wants. And all because Donald Trump just wants approval.